and revising stuff. So I do remember the design thinking framework.
Good stuff. Are you always this sincere, Abu? Even like in class in college, you always like take notes and make sure you remember everything.
Only of stuff of in which I am interested.
Cool. It's good to know that the workshop was something that fits your benchmark of interest. I'm happy, Abu. You're so serious, dude. अबू क्या हुआ लाइफ में हो जाएगा प्रोडक्ट वोडक्ट बन जाएगा स्टार्टअप बन जाएगा इतना टेंशन मत लो भाई.
No, I am not intentional. It's just that my face is like serious only. Like a lot
Yeah,
of people.
that's what I'm talking about. But why? Is there something up?
No, nothing is it, but it's like how my face looks only.
There's
Not much
nothing
of
wrong with it,
anything.
huh? By the way, I just have this constant feeling that like तुम tension में हो. Like there's something happening that I should help you out with. But good. If this is your happy face, then I'm happy. Although I can't imagine how you look when you're actually stressed. But yeah, I'm at least glad that I can see you, Abu. Thank you for joining in. Anshu, Ayush, hi. Please feel free to switch on your cameras. It's going to be a very small group. Please don't treat this like another one of your online classes and webinars, which is boring as hell. Ayush, good to see you, man. You're on mute.
Good to see you too.
Ayush, have we met before?
I don't think I was a part of that workshop design thing.
Good. Which means you're basically coming into this movie without any spoilers, unlike Abu. Abu, please, no spoilers, okay? In case you see something that you've come across before.
Yeah,
Anshu,
sure.
hi, good to see you. Anshu, have we met before? I'm just asking this question because I don't want to like repeat jokes and all, okay? So if you guys have met me before, then I will have to like try new content. But anyway, Anshu, have we met before?
No, I haven't met you before.
No. Good to meet you. And I love the dream catcher in the background. Did you make that or buy that?
Yeah, I have buy that.
I see. And where are the three of you joining in from? Abu, Ayush, and Anshu?
So I am from Ghaziabad.
Ghaziabad, okay.
I'm based in
Um,
Delhi.
Sorry, Anshu, where are you from?
I'm based in Delhi.
You're based in Delhi, I see. And Ayush?
I too am also based in Delhi, Delhi Technological University.
Ah, I see. Nice. Just one sec. So, second. All right. Awesome. Cool, guys. Is anybody watching anything fun? Anshu, Abu, is there anything fun you're watching on Netflix? Any recommendations for stuff you're watching or books you're reading? I'm seriously asking you this. Any recommendations?
Rick and Morty and Loki season 2 is going, I guess.
You're watching Loki season 2.
Yeah.
I have like superhero fatigue right now. I just can't tolerate superhero content anymore. Like I think Marvel like really messed up with this entire Phase 4 rubbish. Yeah, I just can't take superhero content at this point. I didn't even watch Gen V, but Rick and Morty is pretty cool. That's good stuff. Anyone else watching anything interesting? Anything interesting you found that most people are not watching that you would like to recommend, or anything you're reading, or any podcast you're listening to? I have my own recommendations, which I'll save for the end, but anybody here?
I recently watched a series. It is Super Pumped. That is very good.
It's the story of Uber, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I think he fits in. Like I've read the book that basically talks about the founding of Uber and Lyft, and I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt like perfectly fits the role of Travis. Kind of like it's yeah, because Travis was a horrible person, right? And like if you just read about him or if you watch Super Pumped, you will know, right, Ayush? Like he's just a very unlikable person. But then again, he's a very successful founder and CEO.
He's a
So
successful.
I'm not endorsing the fact that you need to be a horrible person to be a founder and CEO. There are more nice people that are successful than horrible. But I'm just saying it's very interesting. Just watch it or like read it, whatever. Cool, cool. Hi, Dhanushree. By the way, Dhanushree is from my team. She is a recent graduate from IIT Gandhinagar. She's the youngest member in our team, and she just wanted to come in and say hi to all of you and just like listen in on this workshop if you guys don't mind. Dhanushree, anything else you want to say about yourself? Please go ahead.
Hi Ganesh, please welcome.
Hi everyone. Excited to meet everyone and be a part of this call. So, yeah, you summarized perfectly. So,
That's it. That's all about you. There's nothing else to you apart
yeah.
from what I just said.
I mean, uh, okay. So something that the internet won't tell you, kind of a thing, is that I like filmmaking. I recently posted a video on my YouTube channel also about my story at my college. Other than that, I yeah yeah that's about it. I think. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Divyanshu, hi. And Divye, hi. Divyanshu, please tell me if we've met before.
Yes.
I'm asking this question to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. We have.
We have?
Can you
When?
can you can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. When did we meet?
On the the startup track like last year in October, I guess. You took our design workshop,
Got
product
it.
design workshop.
Do you still
Yeah.
remember stuff? Like, are you like Abu who takes notes
Yeah.
and has a serious face in every workshop and
Now
remembers
I
everything? And
take.
then you do as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I have like screenshots.
You have screenshots.
Yeah.
Got it. Divyanshu, in that case, there may be a few things that, like for the first, I think, 10 minutes, that may be overlapping with the workshop that I just took. So don't give out spoilers for like Anshu and Ayush and everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dhanashri, you work in my team, so please don't give out spoilers for anything in case you know this stuff before.
Yeah. I won't give it. I'll watch in suspense and figure out the answers or the questions that you might
Sure.
ask in. Yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to join in. It's cool. Uh, sort of just let us know whenever
So
we're ready.
yeah. Actually, just one more team to join, and then we can start. Good to go.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
No problem. Guys, feel free to please switch on your cameras and just get into a comfortable place and do this. We're going to spend quite some time together. Um,
Divya, I would request Divya to please switch on your camera, buddy.
Yeah, give me a moment. I'll do.
Sure,
no
sure.
problem, Divya. You take 2 moments. But yeah, all I'm saying is that we're a very small group, and let's not make this one of those horribly boring online webinars and classes that everybody on this call is absolutely tired of. So I'm going to keep this very light. I'm going to keep this like a conversation. Uh, Ayush and Divyanshu, no, sorry, Abu and Divyanshu, you already know how it goes, right? You've already been a part of one of the workshops. So yeah, Divya, hi. Good to see you.
Hello, thank you.
What is this
Good to be a part
CEO
of this
chair you're
program.
sitting on?
Uh, actually, I'm outside and this is someone's clinic, so I'm using it for attending this workshop.
Good stuff. I was about to say that somebody had once told me that before you become a CEO, sometimes you get the CEO's furniture and then you feel like a CEO and then you eventually become the CEO. I thought that's what you're going for. But good to see you, man, Divya. Have we met before?
Yeah, it's all about manifesting it, so we can start with that.
I don't know if you're manifesting a clinic or if you're manifesting being an entrepreneur, but I
No,
hope you have your
we are
plan
achieving
right.
that.
Cool. Divya,
Yeah.
have we met before?
No,
You
I
haven't,
don't.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm a random stranger on your screen right now, which is good. That's how I would like it to be.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's great. I like meeting new people. I'm curious what is session is going to bring me.
I am curious why you're sitting in a clinic and what's happening like in your life, but we will exchange stories as we go along.
Yeah, sure. That'll be great.
Awesome. Awesome. Good stuff. Cool, cool, cool. While we wait for the other team to join in, I was just asking this question to Anshu, Ayush, and everyone else. If you have any recommendations, anything fun you're watching on Netflix, anything cool you're reading, any podcast recommendations, just feel free to share. I have my own, which I will in the end, but anybody watching, reading, seeing, listening to anything fun?
I can recommend a podcast.
What
It's
is it?
called In Essence Podcast.
Sorry, what is it?
In Essence Podcast.
In Essence. Okay. What is it about?
And okay, so it's we started it with an idea of bringing. Okay, yeah. So I am the host of that podcast, and we started off with talking about little things that go unnoticed in your lives. And in the very beginning, we talked about my friends' mental health issues, and then we gradually moved along with the things, and we talked about attention seeking, how you deal with when you are feeling angry. And there are lots and lots of episodes like movies. We are spending a lot of times on our screen watching content. We are content consumers. So we talked about movies and how the screen life is impacting our real life and all of these types of things. We also talked about content creation. So yeah, this is all the general part of our life that goes unnoticed while we live our fast paced lives. We pick it up and talk about it.
Good stuff, Agastya. I love the plugin that you just did here, promoting your own workshop. But this is pretty awesome. Like, I love it. I actually just bookmarked it. I'm definitely going to listen to it, check it out, and let you know my thoughts. I'm just sharing the link here in the chat for everyone else. Let me do some promotion on your behalf, Divya. I love it when people hustle and
Certainly.
have their
Thank
own
you so much.
podcasts and stuff. This is pretty awesome. I'm going to check it out. I've actually of course I've been on several podcasts and I've also hosted podcasts of my own. In fact, Dhanashri here is from my team in my company, and she is going to be producing our own podcast in 2024. So
That's
keep
great.
your eye out for that.
Yeah, sure. I would love to be a part.
Of course you would. I know you would. Cool, cool, cool. Anybody else? Anything fun? Divyanshu, I just saw you unmuted yourself.
I was just seeing Divya showing his salesman skills. He was trying to show his.
And it is pretty awesome, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, one problem that I see a lot of people, especially in India, have is that people don't know like how to sell themselves, you know, in a good way. Like sales skills is something that's very lacking, and it's a major problem. In fact, it's a problem in entrepreneurship as well. Like I have been a serial entrepreneur, I've started several companies. I've worked with other entrepreneurs everywhere in the world, and the one thing that for some reason most first-time founders are very scared of is the S word, right? Of sales. They're just scared of like talking about sales for some reason. They'll talk about everything like product, features, innovation, how this is going to solve the problem, you know, how this is going to disrupt everything. But when it comes to the basics, you know, economics of how your startup is going to run, like how you're going to make money, you know, how is your balance sheet going to look like at the end of year one? You know, those are very hard questions, and most people tend to avoid them. But yeah, sales is pretty important, and very few people actually know how to do good sales. And it's a skill that anybody can learn. You're not born knowing how to do sales, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, or just if you want to be a person, you know, network with other people, you have to know like how to be good at sales. You know, even with yourself. You know, how do you get people more interested in you? Stuff like that. And I think that's a pretty important skill. Divya, you're on the right track, buddy. I see you got it, and that's pretty awesome.
Hi, Rohan. So sorry for the interruption.
No
I
problem.
guess all the teams have joined. Bhavya, I would request you and Anshu as well to switch on your camera and then we can start with our workshop.
Yeah, just give me 1 minute.
All right. So let me just introduce Rohan. So yeah, I welcome Rohan on behalf of NASCOM Foundation and Ciena Spaces team. And Rohan is basically an entrepreneur, an engineer, and also uh, multidisciplinary designer, I would say. Yeah, and he's also the CEO of Global Strategy Head and Global Strategy Head at Y Center. He created his first startup at the age of 19, and yeah, and he has also collaborated with Fortune 500 organizations, intergovernment agencies, and impact foundations to to create market facing innovations and programs and all. So yeah, I welcome Rohan for this workshop, and I would request all of you to kindly participate well and have your all your doubts cleared whenever and wherever you feel like. So yeah, I welcome Rohan, and yeah, uh, we are good to go. Yeah.
Saurabh, thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me, and thank you for the introduction. For
Thank
a
you.
while, I thought you're introducing someone else, but then I was like, नहीं नहीं ये मैं ही हूँ. ऐसा होता है कभी कभी life में, right?
Yeah,
Then you
yeah.
hear things about yourself, you're like, is this me? And then you're like, yeah, that's you. But thanks, Saurabh. Thank you for doing that. Good evening, everybody. I know that this is just 3 days before Diwali, right? And the fact that all of you are here today means a lot. And I'm not saying that lightly. Um, we are going to be spending quite some time together. Of course, we'll spend like about roughly 2 hours today, but you're going to see a lot of me, especially in December, like November and December. And my only goal is to make sure that I can help you guys, with whatever stage of your own innovation journeys you guys are in, so that you get to a point where in December you're confident about what you're building, right? Let me just share my screen and continue with this. And I want to talk about a few things. Let me know. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes. Okay.
Rohan,
So
do you want the teams to give an introduction, or is it fine with you? Like, we can go.
I'll take care of that. Don't worry.
All
Sorry.
right.
But thanks.
Sure.
Thanks for bringing it up.
All right.
All right. Now, before I get started, okay, I just have a very basic question to ask all of you. What is your expectation from this workshop? Like, why are you here? Why are you here 3 days before Diwali at like 4:20 p.m. in the evening, spending 2 hours in front of your laptops with a random guy because you got an invitation from Saurabh? What is it? What's on your mind? What do you expect from this workshop and the program in general? What do you guys expect?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I just want to, when we are creating a product, we have it in our mind what actually we are creating, but
Uh-huh.
it might not be something that your customers should be motivated of, या फिर वो लोग खरीदेंगे उस चीज को from your
Sure.
motivation. So
Okay.
pitch to yourself, pitch to your investors, pitch to your consumers is all different, and I want to get into that mind space where I can see all of these things which each and every prospect's point of view.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Perfect. So yeah, you're basically trying to look at your product from the perspective of different stakeholders who may be involved, along the journey. Your investors, your customers, your users, all of that stuff. Cool. All right. Anyone else? Any other expectations? Just feel free to share. Before I talk about what will really happen in the workshop, what are your expectations? You must have some expectation to be here. Anyone else? Anything else you're expecting out of this? Anything on your mind? Any question that you hope you find the answer to? Anything you're struggling with that you hope you figure out the answer to?
How to kind of get the customers to buy our product.
How to get the customers to buy your product. Bhavai, it's good to hear your voice, even though all I can see is a blue screen. You're like a ghost right
Yeah,
now.
there
We
is
hear
some
you, but
issue
we
with
don't
it.
see
I'm
you.
trying to resolve that.
That's okay, but it's good to hear your voice, man. how do we get customers to buy our product? It's the question, right? You can do everything on this planet, but if nobody ends up using or buying your product, then what's the whole point, right? As an entrepreneur, fair? Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions on your mind? Anything you're struggling with that you hope is answered?
Like to get to the product market fit, like how to navigate the waters, and like how to make sure that our product aligns with what our potential user might desire or need, to get that alignment.
Okay. But this is like a Viva answer to the question, what is product market fit? I know that that is what the definition is, but is there anything specifically that you are struggling with, Abu? You personally. Forget about the rest of the world and other entrepreneurs.
Personally,
Is there something?
from my point of
Yeah,
view, like from my particular startup point of view, we are
yeah.
literally struggling to get the customer buy the product
I
simply
see.
because it's a long hierarchy from their side.
I see. Okay. You and Abu are on the same team, Bhavesh.
No.
Oh, okay.
Different.
Got it. Got it. Bhavesh, good stuff. Abu, anything that you are struggling with personally?
Yeah, so personally, like when we surveyed Indian audience, so we are building a software. So Indian audience doesn't really want to pay for a software or buy a subscription service into the D2C market. So like we are struggling to uh, get the Indian users pay for a software. Like so, we
Right.
are thinking of segmenting into business side and a consumer side. So a B2B software sells much more better than a B2C software. So like we
Okay.
are on the verge of like to define our customer segment.
Got it. Got it. There's a lot to unpack in what you just said, Abu, but thank you for sharing that. Subscription service, D2C, B2B, Indian consumers. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there, but I get the overall gist, and we will talk in more details as we move along. But fair enough. Good to know. All right. So, guys, here is the plan. Okay. I'm going to be, the reason it says 4 weeks is because you're going to see me for 4 weeks, not necessarily 4 weeks consecutively, because I know you have Diwali in between. But I'm going to be spending some time with you, especially focusing on product market fit, as it says, right? What that means is all of you here, the assumption is, and I've read a little bit about your profiles as well. The assumption here is that all of you at least know the problem that you're solving, who you're solving it for, and what you're building, and you have some form of a prototype. Is that correct? Everybody here, is that a valid assumption? Everyone here knows the problem you're solving, who you're solving it for, and have some form of a prototype already ready, correct? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
the journey usually is that you go from identifying a problem to having an idea, from having an idea to having a prototype. That's where you guys are. And then you need to move from having a prototype to having a product. They're two very different things. You have to understand, first of all, the difference between having a prototype and having a product. It's not the same thing. Once you figure out that you have a product in place, you need to understand how do you go from having a product to having a company, which are two very different things. Just because you have a product doesn't mean that you figured out what your startup is going to do. They're two completely different things, right? And you have to understand how all of these pieces come together. But my goal is to sort of help you see how do you make that jump between going from having a prototype to having a product. What does it take? And then going from having a product to actually perhaps launching it in the market and make sure that your users can use it. I want to focus a lot on the product design aspects of this, and I also want to focus on how do you understand, your consumer side of things, just so that you're able to sort of decode that. But I'm very, very heavily going to be leaning towards really unpacking your products and helping you bring fresh perspectives from a market point of view. Now, having said that, the way this program is going to go is that I'm going to, of course, do a workshop. That's why we are all here today. But after this, I'm going to do 3 one-on-one mentorship sessions with you guys, right? With you, your team. The mentorship sessions are going to be very heavily focused on addressing where you are in your own product prototype journeys, seeing what needs to be fixed, and me helping you guys fix it over the course of 3 weeks. That's how it's going to run. So I'm going to do this workshop today so that we are all on the same page. We are all speaking the same language. And then I'm going to shift into a mentorship session mode. I'm going to take 3 mentorship sessions with you, and I'm going to set down certain milestones for each team on the basis of where you are in your own journeys, and then see how we can figure out and help you guys solve this, right? And I've done similar programs like this in the past for other teams as well. And I'll talk in a bit about why I do this, but please, just something very important to remember, guys, especially if you're meeting me for the first time, is that webinars are absolutely terribly boring and a waste of everyone's time. If I was a student, I would never attend a webinar. Let's be honest here, right? It's horrible. Like I would rather like play Call of Duty on the side than waste my time listening to someone speak for 2 hours. What I really believe in is conversations. So I'm going to treat this like a conversation, which means I'm not just going to be talking. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about, what you are facing, your problems. You have a better joke than me, please share so I can steal it. But the point being that this is going to be a two-way communication, not just a one-way communication. I hate that. It's a waste of everyone's time. Number one. Second thing is that I'm going to treat all of you and give you the respect that you deserve if you really are considering yourselves to be founders, right? So I'm going to treat you with that respect. In this workshop and in this program, when you speak to me, I'm not going to speak to you like you're a student. I'm going to speak to you like you're serious about building what you're building. I'm going to speak to you like you have the potential of being a founder and a future CEO. That's the respect that I'm going to give you. And that's how I expect you guys as well to sort of, just treat this program, right? Like treat yourselves with respect. I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm not going to treat you guys like students. The reason I'm doing this is because I was a student founder myself. I started my first company when I was in college. I know exactly how it feels. I know exactly the problems that you face. I've been through this journey. I also know how hard it is to get the right kind of mentorship and how hard it is to figure out answers on your own. I've been through this journey. So the reason I do programs like this, even though this is not, what I do for a living, but the reason I do workshops like this is it's just a way of me going back in the past and giving a high five through time to the 19-year-old version of me that was also starting out my first company in college. That's the reason why I do this, right? So me speaking to you guys and spending time with you guys is just me thinking about how it was for me when I started, and it's just a way of doing that. This slide I'm going to spend the least amount of time in because I don't want to spend time talking about myself, but you can take a screenshot, you can read it later, or let me just put the link in the chat. You can go read up about it on my website as well if you want to. But I have basically been a serial entrepreneur for quite some time now, and I have experience across diverse fields. I started when I was 19, but I also failed at my first company that I started back in college, right? I had to shut it down after 2.5 years, and I learned a lot of lessons from failing at my first startup, way more than succeeding at other companies that I've built over the last few years. But uh, I just realized that a lot of these things can easily be shared and taught to other people so that you don't end up repeating the same mistakes. And also, all of the successes I've had, I can also very easily break it down into, frameworks that you guys can use when you're building your own products and companies. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time. I'm an engineer like most of you, and I have some experience in design. And of course, I have experience in building and scaling businesses and making them large companies, right? Yes, Divya, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. Like, I have been thinking about this for a while. Ki
Yeah.
being a college student, I am starting a company. So
Yeah.
there are pros and there are cons of starting a company while you are pursuing your degree. मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ and I see a lot of people around me. Some are
Yeah.
skilled, some are not skilled, and I am running a company.
Right.
So all exposure to all of this population and
Yeah.
the utilization of this population
Yeah.
is what I can access right now. But जब मैं graduate होके बाहर चला जाऊंगा, I'll be doing something of my own, or probably I'll be working somewhere. तो
Correct.
मुझे ये access नहीं होगा of this population at this level, at this
Correct.
wide exposure. So
Correct.
I don't know how to think it, but am I thinking it correct?
Yes, you are, Divya. And thanks for sharing that. In fact, just something I want to tell all of you is starting off as a student entrepreneur is amazing because your cost of failure is very low. क्या हो जाएगा if you fail? What happens if you try something and it doesn't work out? Literally nothing. You're not losing out on anything in life right now. Your cost of failure is very low, but of course, another way to look at it is that you have access to a community very easily. If you want to build a product and you want to test it with 200 users, you can do it in your college. बहुत आसान है ये करना, right? And having access to that kind of a community becomes a little harder later, which Divya correctly pointed out. So there's a lot of benefit to being a student entrepreneur, and you guys should completely tap into it. But thanks for sharing that. This is about me. You can go read up about me later if you want. You can also Google for me. I know it sounds tacky as hell, but it's literally the easiest way to read more about me if you want to. Anyway, something that I also want to talk about is that in this program, everything that I share with you is based on my own experience, in the sense that I didn't just read up a random article on, LinkedIn, 7 things every founder should know, and decided to make a workshop out of it. It's all based on stuff that I have been sort of implementing over the last few years. And as I said, it's going to be a conversation. I want you to own this program, make it yours. It's only going to be as good as the questions you ask me. There's only so much I can do by sharing things of my own. So make sure you're comfortable, ask me questions. It's a safe space. So try out new ideas. If there's something crazy you've been thinking about and you've not figured out who to ask that question to, I am that guy. You can tell me whatever you want. Treat this like a safe space. Use it as a place where you can test out new ideas and theories. There's going to be creative tension sometimes, where something that you have been working on in the last few weeks, as in the course of the next 4 weeks, you may just realize that it's not the right direction, and then you may have to go back and change a few things. But all of that creative tension is for the good, right? And I just want you to know that I'll continue being a safe space where you can ask me anything you want to regarding your projects, test out new ideas and theories, and hopefully learn something, in return. Bhavay, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Like a small curious question, not like
Yeah.
a relevant question, is like
Yeah.
the way that you have been mentioning Y Center on the cover page as well as on the previous page as well. Can you just give a 2-line description, short
Good
description
question.
about what is Y Center?
Good question. So Y Center is basically a design firm, and we specialize in creating products, services, and strategies for extremely complex social problems, right? And we've been doing this for the last couple of years. In fact, Bhavay, to answer that very question, let me show you some of the work that we've been doing at Y Center. And the reason I'm showing you this is all of the work I'm about to show you uses frameworks and uses concepts that I'm going to share with you over the course of this program, just so you also know where I'm coming from, right? And before I begin, as I was saying, one of my favorite writers is Austin Kleon, who says something like all advice is autobiographical, which basically means that everything that I'm sharing in this workshop is actually a means of me talking to my 19-year-old version. That is me, by the way, engineering college hostel. Nobody needs 2 laptops, by the way. Nobody even has 2 laptops in engineering college. I just did that for the sake of this photograph. But that is actually me one night before we were launching my first product that I built in college at a conference. And, just like every other engineer, I was trying to figure things out just one night before the launch.
What did you
But yeah,
start with that?
sorry, Divyanshu.
What did you start with then? What did you started then?
What did I start then? It was an edtech company, but I'll give you the details of what the company was at the end of today's session if you're interested. But yeah, it was a company that seemed amazing. I had investors, I had my first set of customers, I had users who loved it. But in spite of all of that, I failed at my first startup in like about 2.5 years, and I learned so much. And hopefully I get to share why it failed with you guys, so that you can just learn and do better. All right. And of course, I've been sharing all of these things because I really believe that the shortest distance between two people is a story. It doesn't matter who you are, you and someone interesting you want to talk to, you as a customer, you as an entrepreneur and your first customer, you as a designer and the first user. People connect with each other using stories, which is also true for the companies that you guys are building and the products that you guys are building. It's very important that as a founder, you learn how to share your story as authentically as possible, because people really relate with your story. It is true. It is true for the brands we choose. It is true for the products we buy. It is true for the companies we love. It's true for anything on this planet. It really is comes down at the end of the day to stories we believe in and we share with each other. And it's an important skill to take up, even as an entrepreneur, right? And coming back to Divya's earlier point about learning how to talk about your startup to different stakeholders is a part of storytelling, and it's an important skill that all you guys should have. And that's why I've been spending so much time just getting to know you guys as well and where you are and maybe sharing my stuff. Now, having said that, Bhavay, to answer your question, been doing this work for quite some time, and I specialize in building sustainable communities and other businesses as well, helping them. Just some examples of work that we have done in the past at Y Center. For example, everything that I'm going to be teaching you here today, me and my team have used it to build solutions for malaria rapid diagnosis in rural Mozambique, which is a country in Africa, right? So that picture that you see is actually my team on the ground, where we've been studying the effects of malaria within a certain population in order to design a sustainable solution that helps with rapid diagnosis and response to new malaria cases. I've also used some of this stuff to build a school of agri-tech innovations in Kenya. In the bottom right, you see is me right there in 2019, before I had a beard, on the ground in Kenya, setting up a school for agri-tech innovations. And the reason that we decided to set up a school, here at Y Center is because, let me ask you this question. How many of you guys want to become a farmer? Or how many of you guys know other people who have been to college, who are getting a graduation degree because their ambition in life is to become a farmer? Do you guys know anyone? किस किसको पता है? Do you guys know anybody who wants to become a farmer in their life? उनका सपना है जिंदगी का कि उनको farmer बनना है. Anyone? Yeah?
No, I have not met anyone.
No? No,
No.
right? But that feels
Yeah.
crazy, in the sense that if people are trying to get out of agriculture, if people are trying to not be a farmer, then how are agricultural systems going to function? That is just one of the problems. There's a lot of other issues out there with, just in terms of food security, which is most likely, even before people die of climate change, people are going to die due to malnutrition and starvation, because it's just not possible to feed the population of the world in the year 2060. You cannot feed everybody in the world 3 good meals a day, because it's just not possible to produce that much food given the amount of land and resources that we have. It's not possible. Even if you converted all of the available land on this planet into agricultural land, you still can't produce that much food, right? So our agriculture systems are under a lot of pressure, and we decided that we want to contribute to solving this problem, and which is why we set up our own school. And those are some of the pictures you see. I've also used some of these techniques for helping textile artisans in Jaipur here in India, really analyzing and seeing the problems that some of the artisans face, so that we could design new digital solutions that could sort of help them do their work better. And of course, I've also been involved in designing sustainable living solutions for slum refugees in North Africa and Egypt. That's me in Egypt, working on a project where we were designing solutions for a slum. But yeah, the reason I do this is because I take all of those learnings from the field, and then I do workshops where I'm able to share some of these techniques and methods, even with first-time entrepreneurs such as all of you on this call, so that you can apply it to your own projects and grow. Now, let's get to the first thing that I want to discuss with you guys about, right? Which is you have to, over the course of building products and solutions, you have to start looking at the entire world as a collection of interconnected systems, and then look for ideas and inspirations to solve your problems, or to figure out questions regarding your startup. You have to get into the habit of looking for solutions outside your sector. What I mean is, if you are a computer science engineer, or if you're an electronics engineer, or let's say you're building a product for healthcare, if you're building a product for agriculture, you're building a consumer electronics product, there is a very high tendency, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur, to only look for inspiration and answers from within your sector, right? Which means you're going to research on other healthcare startups, right? You're going to research on other consumer electronic startups. That's what most of us do. But you have to start getting into the habit of looking outside of your domain. I want to give you one example of how beneficial this is. When me and my team, when we were in Africa, we've done a lot of work in Africa. When we were in this extremely remote region, we found something very interesting, right? So we kind of noticed that no matter where we went, we always found someone selling a Coca-Cola product. someone, right? It could be either, let's say, a guy on a bike, a small shop, someone carrying Coca-Cola products at the back of their car. And we found that very interesting because a lot of these regions did not have like basic utilities. There was no internet connection, there was no cell phone coverage, right? It was a little hard to even sometimes find packaged drinking water, but you always found somebody nearby selling a Coca-Cola product. And we found that to be very interesting. We were like, how is Coca-Cola selling their products in a region jahan pe kuch bhi nahi hai? Like what's up? Like what is up with their supply chain? So I started doing some research and I found that I was not the only one who had realized and had noticed this. Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? Which works on healthcare projects in the continent. And they basically work on projects that deliver life-saving medicines and vaccines to extremely remote areas in Africa. They were facing a problem of not being able to deliver vaccines and medicines to some regions, but they found that Coca-Cola was already selling their products there. So tum socho, medicines and healthcare equipment were not being able to reach regions jahan pe Coca-Cola already apna product bech raha tha, right? Coca-Cola was already selling their products there and they were like, wait, what the hell is happening? That is what inspired Gates Foundation to actually do a partnership with Coca-Cola and start this project called Project Last Mile, which basically asks the question that if you could get a Coca-Cola product in a certain part of the world, why can't you get life-saving medicines in the same place? So what that happened is Coca-Cola and Bill Gates Foundation partnered with each other, where Gates Foundation started using Coca-Cola's supply chain expertise to deliver life-saving medicines using their supply chain, because they were already connected to these regions. So they started delivering life-saving medicines using Coca-Cola's supply chain to all of these remote regions. And of course, Coca-Cola got a new partner like Gates Foundation, to work with them on this project. Now, if you think about it for a moment, you take a step back and just think about what just happened. Coca-Cola is an FMCG beverage company. Gates Foundation was working on a healthcare project. They have nothing to do with each other. But Gates Foundation was able to figure out how to solve a problem that they were facing by looking at inspiration from Coca-Cola, which is in a completely different sector. And together, they were able to come up with an innovative solution, which is using a beverage company supply chain to deliver medicines, right? And the reason I'm starting with this example is this is actually the most ideal time for you guys to really start looking at inspiration from other places. For example, you could be building, let's say, a fintech app, right? Let's say an app that helps investors discover student startups worth investing in, right? Let's say you're making an app like that. Your inspiration for the UI can come from Tinder, right? Where it is super easy to left and right swipe startups that you like and like swipe up startups that you super like in order to get a quick coffee virtual meeting with a founder so that you can connect and then exchange LinkedIn credentials and then go ahead and set up a more proper meeting, right? Your UI inspiration could come from Tinder, even if you're working on a fintech startup like that. Let's say you're building a healthcare service, for children, who are suffering from, let's say, life-threatening diseases. Your inspiration for the service of this place could come from Starbucks, right? Where everybody's welcome and where things can be customized and where nobody comes and asks you, would you like to order something every 15 minutes? And you can just sit and chill there for as long as you want. You can borrow some of those ethos of customer experience from a completely different sector. But what I'm trying to say is start looking outside your sector for inspiration, for answers to solutions, and just sort of bring them to what you're building, and you'll be able to look at your own product from a whole different perspective. Right? I want to put this into practice and ask you guys a couple of questions and see if you know about this, if you can think in the right direction. Starbucks, I just brought it up, right? Everybody knows that Starbucks is a place that's well known for its coffee, yes, but it is also well known for its in-store experience, which, to be honest, is not as new as it was when it first launched, but it still is very well known everywhere in the world for its coffee. I want to ask a question to everyone here. Do you guys have any guesses, or do you know another sector that Starbucks actually operates in that very few people know about? And it has nothing to do with coffee. It's a very different perspective of looking at Starbucks. Any guesses?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
it does something in finance. I read about it, but I forgot since it's long. It
Okay.
probably, it has a wallet of its own, and then when you deposit money, it does something with that money on the back end, and
Okay.
wallet money is available to you for buying coffee. You get benefits of associating with Starbucks and all.
Sure. Okay. Something in the finance got to do with wallet. Fair enough. Divyanshu?
yes, yeah.
Same.
They were
Okay.
wallet card.
Wallet and card. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Any other guesses? A completely different way of looking at Starbucks. Anyone else? Anything apart from finance and wallets that you think is a sector that Starbucks operates in, even though that is not exactly their main business, but it adds value to their main business?
Providing a good ambience.
That is their main business. If you walked into a coffee store with a horrible ambience, I don't think you would drink coffee again. But fair, thanks, Abu. Anyone else wants to give it a shot? Okay. Divya and Devanshu, you guys are right. Starbucks also operates like a bank, right? Starbucks is in the banking sector. In fact, Starbucks has more cash stockpile than some of the leading banks in the US. And here is how, right? Think about what happens in the bank. You deposit money, right? And you can withdraw money, which means that a bank over the time will have a lot of money stockpile that it has, which it can basically use for other purposes, right? It can give out loans, it can give out credit lines and so on. In Starbucks, especially in the US, now that you have a subscription service and you actually have a Starbucks card, you can actually deposit money into your card in advance and you can withdraw coffee using your card, right? So you stack up money on your card, you just swipe it at a Starbucks and you can withdraw coffee. If you think about it, Starbucks also ends up having a lot more money in its reserves than the money that it is spending by giving out coffee. Always, the amount of money it will have in reserve is always greater than the amount of money that is going to be withdrawn in the form of coffee, which means that Starbucks realized that they also are in the banking business, just that they are selling coffee instead of actually giving out money, which is what led to Starbucks realizing that it can capitalize on this, use the money that is piling up in order to fund other innovative services and products within its company. In fact, Starbucks has this place called the Trier Center, right? So the Trier Center is actually an entire model of a Starbucks coffee store, but it's an innovation lab. It's the place where Starbucks tries new service designs. It's the place where Starbucks comes up with new recipes, tries new kinds of coffees, new kinds of menu, new, like let's say service staff culture, things like that. It's an actual coffee store you can walk into, but Starbucks uses it for experiments, right? And it is able to sort of see what works and what doesn't to continue being in the lead. For example, Starbucks from the Tri Center had created this drink in the Western markets, which was a drink that had like it was a rainbow colored drink, right? Like it had a lot of colors in the drink. And the reason that Starbucks came up with it is because they realized a lot of their customers take pictures of the coffee and they started doing an experiment around what would be the best looking drink on Instagram. They literally wanted to come up with the visually the best looking drink on Instagram, which is also great to have. So they came up with this entire rainbow drink, and if you take a picture of that drink, it looks amazing, as an Instagram post. So they actually tried that at a Try Center. It worked out pretty well, and they launched it for a couple of months, just to get more attention to some of its drinks. But the way it does it is that it uses the money that it has stockpiled on and sort of uses it to fund some of these innovative schemes. But it does that because Starbucks realized that they're just not in the business of coffee and having a great store experience, but the fact that they also operate like a bank. And as I said, Starbucks, this is data from 2016, right? Like this number has gone way up after the pandemic, where Starbucks actually has more money than a lot of financial institutions and bank in its stockpile. That's just how big it is in the banking sector as well. But the point I'm trying to make is you have to understand, and at the end of the day, whatever you do has to start from solving problems for your customers and with your customers, right? And looking at your startup, looking at your product from fresh perspectives just helps you uncover new strategies and new ways, to make that product market fit. I want to show one more example and see if you guys, can guess this as well. So Airbnb, right? All of you guys know that Airbnb is in the hospitality sector. It's in it gives out accommodations. We all know that it's one of the biggest players in the hospitality sector. It's been having a very profitable, last couple of years in spite of the pandemic. In fact, Airbnb did its IPO in the first year of the pandemic, which was an amazing strategy as well. So yeah, we basically know that they are a unicorn startup in the hospitality industry. But let me ask you this question. Do you guys know about Airbnb using their product for a purpose that is very different from hospitality, but still has hospitality in its core? Any guesses? Any other sector that you feel Airbnb has operated in the last couple of years? Any guesses? There's another sector, very interesting, that Airbnb discovered that they're operating in. And yeah, it's a whole different way of looking at it.
Is it
I guess restaurants.
related to travel?
Related to travel, okay. You're talking about Airbnb experiences. Okay, fair. Divyanshu, sorry, you were saying?
I guess they tried restaurant or something.
They tried restaurants. Okay. Anyone else? Any other guesses? Okay. So here's something very interesting that happened last year. Okay. Airbnb realized that they are in the fintech sector, and more specifically, that they're working in the humanitarian fintech sector. Here is why. When the Ukraine-Russia war started, right, Airbnb realized and noticed something very interesting happening on their platform. They realized that the highest number of bookings for properties in Ukraine actually happened during the Ukraine war, right? And Airbnb was a little confused. They were like, wait, what's happening? Like, there's a war happening. So for sure, nobody wants to go and stay in Ukraine right now. But then why are the property booking rates so high in Ukraine? And they realized that it is because people from all over the world were booking Airbnb, right, of owners that were based in Ukraine as a means of directly donating money to them. Think about this for a moment. If you're sitting in Delhi, right, and you hear about the Ukraine-Russia war, and for some reason you want to donate money to Ukraine, let's say that that's where you politically stand. How are you going to donate money? You don't even know who to give the money to. You don't even know where you're supposed to go, which charitable organization is legit, what is not legit. There's no way for you to track and see if, your money actually reach the people, that would benefit the most from it. It's very hard for you to figure that out until people realize that you can do it using Airbnb, because these are Ukrainian homeowners on the platform. So if you book a Ukrainian property, you're directly giving money to a Ukrainian citizen and therefore helping them out during a very difficult time. So it actually skyrocketed the number of bookings. And that's when Airbnb realized that they are in the humanitarian fintech sector, where people are using their platform as a donation tech platform, right? Where, people were giving out money for humanitarian causes through the Airbnb platform because Airbnb has its own fintech solution. And that's actually what led the Airbnb to start its own nonprofit for Ukrainian refugees as a part of its 2022 strategy. And they just capitalized on it, told them that you can directly donate to Ukrainian homes using the platform. And now this is just a sector they have started operating in. Right? Pretty interesting. But the reason I'm sharing all of this with you is to help you understand that when you start looking at the world, you have to stop looking at the world from a one-dimensional point of view. Every company on this planet knows that they operate in multiple sectors beyond their primary domain, and they capitalize on it, right? You guys can also do the same from the perspective of learning from different sectors and domains, looking for inspiration, using that to solve problems in the products that you guys are building. Make sense? Yeah? All right. Now, moving forward, two things to remember. Number one, all of you should 100% always start with and be absolutely certain about the problem that you're solving. And I expect all of you to know that at this point, correct? All of you know what problem you're solving? Yes? You know what the cause of the problem is, you know what the effect is, you know who you're solving it for. Now, if you know that, I just want to remind all of you that products are not solutions and that they are a part of the solution, right? All of you have products right now. Your products themselves are not the solutions to those problems. Your products are a part of the solution. The most important part, sure, but it's not the solution itself. And as a course of this program, when I'm doing my mentorship with you, I want to see if I can shift your mindset from being product designers to solution designers. Okay, it's very important. You have to start thinking like solution designers. Now, what do I mean? Let's say, let's go back to our earlier problem, right? Of student entrepreneurs finding it very difficult to get access to capital. And therefore you decide to make an app that connects investors, maybe not very big investors, but investors with some money. You connect them to student founders on an app. You take inspiration from Tinder to make this app, right? The UI. And you figure out that this is a way to connect investors and founders, and therefore there is the solution to your problem. You have to understand that your app is not the solution. Your app is a part of the solution. The solution is a lot more. The solution involves things like customer experience. The solution involves things like a business model. It involves stuff like your revenue strategy. It involves how are you going to do customer onboarding? How are you going to do acquisitions, right? It involves understanding the funnel. It involves understanding sales. There's a lot of stuff involved in turning a product into a solution, but that's what this workshop is about. You have to get better at understanding the difference between a product and a solution and change your mindset from being a product designer to a solution designer. You have to think of these other components, and that is what I'm going to share with you guys. Cool? Makes sense? Everyone? Okay. Now, very quickly, I want to share one very quick case study. I always share this. Divyanshu and I think Abu, you guys were in the last workshop, so you may already know the answer to this, so don't give out spoilers. But for everyone else, I just want to share one quick case study. I always share this, but it's very important because sometimes, and this is also like nothing to be ashamed of, sometimes when you are trying to do product market fit, you realize that your understanding of the problem itself is wrong. It is possible, by the way, but nothing to worry about there because you can always go back to the drawing board and you can reanalyze the problem and then change your, idea. What I'm trying to say is do not get married to your products or ideas at this stage. Be open to actually testing things out, be open to going back to the drawing board and realizing that your current product idea is not working, which means that you may have to reanalyze what the problem is and then change the idea slightly so that you still try to, for example, solve the problem of connecting, student founders with capital, but maybe you realize that the best way to do it is maybe not using the kind of app that you were thinking about and being open to coming up with a new idea. You have to be open to that. Do not get married to your ideas and just your ideas and products at this point. I know it sounds scary, but that is literally the first mistake that you can ever make, which introduces bias. You love your product and idea so much that you just can't critically think about what may be wrong with it. So you have to get better at being open to change. I want to show you an example, right, of how sometimes your understanding of a problem may be incorrect or how you may miss out on, very obvious things that you don't see, at first glance, maybe. Okay. So what I'm trying to ask is, it's always go back to the drawing board and see, are you solving the right problem? Always, right? I want to give you guys a very quick example, not spend too much time on this, just the next 5 minutes. I'm going to share a case study with you, okay? A real case study based on the picture that you see on the screen. And I'll ask you guys a couple of questions and I want to hear your thoughts on it. Okay. So here is the case study. The women that you see in this picture, are women from a community in, let's say, rural Mozambique, right? The reason I'm picking a country like Mozambique is because none of you have been there. None of you have worked in Africa, but I have. So it's a neutral place for all of you. I didn't want to like pick a case study from Chandni Chowk or from Hoskas, where some of you have been, just a neutral place where none of you have ever been to, right? So it's neutral, completely new community, completely new problem for all of you. So these women are from rural Mozambique, and the reason that they're carrying water in buckets on their heads is because they all will belong to a village, and there is no source of water in this village, right? The only source of water is a river, and the river is situated a couple of miles away from the village. So the women need to walk all the way to the river, carry water in buckets, and come back, right? There's no other source of water, which means the water that they're carrying is all they have for household activities, drinking purposes, whatever, you name it. This is the only water that they have, which is why they're carrying water in buckets. Now, in terms of weather and climate, it's very hot, it's very dry, it's semi-desert conditions, right? It's sand, it's hot, it's a long journey, it's a difficult journey. They need to make this journey every day. And of course, they're carrying water in buckets, as you can see. Got it, everyone? What the case study is? Yeah. Now, here is the question for all of you. First question. Do all of you feel that this picture and the case study represents a problem? Lack of access to water, you think it's a problem? Everyone agrees with that? This picture mein ek problem hai. It represents a problem. Everyone agrees with it? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
here's the question. Awesome. Now here's the question for you guys. Can you look at this picture and I want you to tell me, is there anything interesting that you observe? Which means I'm trying to look at, do you have any observations? कुछ दिख रहा है तुम लोग को फोटो में, तुमको लगता है कि ये इंटरेस्टिंग है, maybe this is what is happening. Any conclusions you can draw from this picture or the case study? Any feelings that you have? तुमको खराब लग रहा है? You're a little jealous कि इनको इतना outdoor activity मिलता है, तुमको नहीं मिलता है. Anything, like what are your observations? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings, or any conclusions that you may have looking at this picture, thinking about the case study? There are no wrong answers. I just want to know your personal thoughts, observations, feelings, looking at this picture and thinking about what I just told you.
I have a perspective. I mean,
Mhm.
if these guys are even poor, let's consider that these guys are also poor, they can use smart ways of transporting water. Probably एक मतलब बैलगाड़ी kind of thing they can use for transporting. Why are they pulling it all over their heads? They can maybe use 2 buckets to transport in one trip.
Okay. So why are they not using a transportation system for carrying the water? Okay, fair. Thanks, Divya. Anyone else? Any other thoughts, conclusions? कुछ दिख रहा है photo में? Anything interesting you notice you want to talk about?
They are not wearing any footwear or sleep or something.
They're not wearing any?
Footwear.
They're not
Sleep.
wearing any footwear. Okay. And what do you feel about that?
What I feel about it, maybe they can't afford it. They can't buy a
I don't
sleep.
like, according to me, I'm able to see the footwears. If
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But what, okay, so sort of fair if you can see a few footwear, but let's stick with what Devanshu is saying for a bit. Devanshu, so you feel that they're not able to afford footwear and that's the reason why they're not wearing it if they're not wearing it, right?
Yeah, kind of, or maybe they are like they have a culture of not wearing footwears while
They
carrying
have a
water.
culture of not wearing footwear, which is very different from not being able to afford footwear, right?
Yeah.
Fair? Okay.
Probably
Okay.
they live off very far. They cannot access footwears. Like given that they don't have access to water, they are living in a remote place probably. So might as well
Sure.
be problem for other resources.
Sure. Unless footwear is like Coca-Cola, right? Where you get footwear everywhere, even in
Yeah.
places where you don't get water. Then it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
But fair, Divya. We don't know what's happening. Saurav, anything you have to comment on the footwear piece here? No? No wrong answers, don't worry.
No. Like I just noticed it, so just I thought of sharing.
What if they are wearing footwear? Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that?
Sorry, what?
What if they are wearing footwear? Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that?
I don't know. Like I'm not sure. One thing which I noticed is I don't know. It's just my perspective that the front lady, which is carrying that bucket with like both her hands, I don't know if it's the steel one or something, and the rest ones are carrying the plastic buckets or something like that. So I don't know. I just noticed this, so yeah. No
Any
comments about the
conclusions?
footwear thing. No, no.
Okay, fair. So any conclusions about the fact that there's one woman carrying steel buckets, everyone else is carrying plastic buckets? Does it make you think of anything? Any feelings?
I don't know. Like it's maybe like the one carrying the water in that steel wala bucket. It might turn up like a little bit hotter or something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But like since they are traveling from a distance or something, so it might like rise the temperature of the water. But like the ones who are carrying it in the plastic one, so it might be a little lower as compared to the one that is in the
Sure.
front. So yeah.
Sure. Metal buckets, metal is a good conductor of heat, so maybe the hotter in the metal bucket is hotter than the plastic ones. Fair enough. Anyone else? Any other observations, thoughts, conclusions, feelings?
What I feel is that they are happy while doing this work of carrying water
Okay.
from waste.
What makes you say that?
They also have
Uh,
access to smartphone cameras. Like someone is
Wait,
clicking
wait,
their. Yes.
wait, hang on, Devanshu. I'll come to your smartphone camera comment in 1 minute, but let's talk about Ayush for a moment. Ayush, why do you feel that they're happy?
like just it looks like they are happy while doing it because they all have a smile on their face, and I don't feel that they see this work as a burden.
They have a smile. Yeah, fair, but we don't know if they have a smile on their face because the photographer asked them to say cheese, or if it genuinely is a smile that they're enjoying it. But fair, they could be happy. We don't know if they really are. Okay, sure. Divyanshu, smartphone camera, what was that?
Like someone is clicking their photos and they know what is a camera, how to smile in front of a camera.
Yeah, so are you saying that they have cameras, or are you saying that they know what a camera is?
I I literally don't. No, I'm saying they know what is a photograph, like,
Okay.
or someone is they have access to smartphones or cameras.
Okay, it's a very big jump to go from they know what a camera is to they having smartphones specifically is just something you came up with. But fair enough, we don't know unless Divyanshu, you know the women in this picture personally, and there's something that
No,
we
I
don't
don't.
know.
No,
In
I
that
don't.
case, you have access to information that we don't. But apart from that, it's very hard to make that jump. But yeah, fair enough, Divyanshu. Maybe they know what a camera is, or it looks like they're aware that they're being photographed. Maybe because some of them are looking in the direction of the camera. So at least they know that they're being photographed. Whether they know what a camera is or they have cameras of their own, we don't know that yet, right?
Yes.
Cool, cool. Anshu, I'm actually very interested to see if you have a perspective as being only other the only woman in this call apart from Dhanashree. And Dhanashree knows this case study, so that's the reason why she's keeping quiet. But Anshu, I want to see if you have a fresh perspective that all of these other men are not seeing.
I completely agree with all of what all has mentioned over this about this picture. Like it
Okay.
clearly seems that they all don't have the access for the water and travel along for like carrying the water for their household chores.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else that you notice? Any other perspective that you feel everyone here is missing?
Not exactly.
Okay. All right, fair. Let me summarize some of the things that you could have seen in the picture, and you can mentally tick mark and see if you spoke about it or if you thought about it, right? So let's start with the obvious. The women here are carrying the water in buckets. If you notice, some of them are not even holding the buckets, right? They're balancing it without holding, which means that they've been doing this for quite some time. It's not the first time that they're carrying water in buckets. They have a habit. They're skilled at balancing it on their heads without holding it, which means that this is just an activity they've been doing for quite some time. The fact that they're carrying water in buckets also is not a very great means of transportation because the buckets are open on top. So some water will be lost due to evaporation. Also, spillage in case they spill the water while walking. What if they trip over something? Also, they're carrying it on their heads, which means that if they keep doing this for a long time, which they clearly are because they can balance it so well, they are going to develop neck and back problems, over the course of time. So they're going to end up developing medical ailments as a result of doing this task for such a long time. Also, there are only women in this picture. It's always interesting how nobody comments on this, but it's not a picture from Delhi or like Ghaziabad, right? It's a picture from a whole different country in a whole different continent. Nobody actually talks about, and by the way, I have asked this question to universities and to researchers around the world, right? Including, we've done this at Stanford University. Very few people actually comment on the fact that there are only women in this picture, but why not? Right? Think about this. There is no universal law that the task of carrying water from women is only, task of carrying water from rivers is only supposed to be done by women. Like there's no law. The fact that there are only women in this picture is interesting because it maybe gives you a hint that ho sakta hai, ye task, just like we have it in rural villages in India, unfortunately, is gender coded only to women. Men don't carry water from rivers. It's the women who carry water from rivers. Very interesting. It seems obvious, but it is not obvious. It's completely naya community hai. How can you like it's not obvious at all. There are only women and no men in this picture, right? So only women, which maybe means that this task is gender coded to women for some reason. It happens in Indian villages as well. Interesting. Women are doing this together as a group, which means that it's a group activity. River दूर है, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि people just go to the river whenever they feel like. They actually do this together as a group. So it's a group activity. And if it's a group activity, थोड़ा social dynamics होगा ही उसमें. People are going to talk, they're going to have a good time. So it's a social activity. Plus, it's hot. It's going to be very difficult to do this, every single day. And all in all, it looks like a problem, worth solving for. Correct? Now, here is the point. The problem is lack of access to water, right? Which is why the women are going so far and carrying water every day. And it looks like a very, not a very good use of their time. And, it doesn't seem like something that we should be doing. So a group of designers created an obvious solution to this obvious problem. And the obvious solution is this right here, which is create a tube well. So the designers created a tube well in the village, right? So tube wells in the village. So you don't have to walk so far in the hot, dry sun. You can just go outside your home and collect water. Now, all of the women were trained how to use this tube well, right? And the tube well worked 24/7. There was no problem with the quality of the water or the quality of the tube well. Everyone was trained how to use it. The water was clean, so there was no problem with the water at all. And the water was available all the time because it was the groundwater that they were getting, right? So water clean hai, no issues in the water, no issues in the tube well. Everyone was trained how to use it. And the tube well was available for everyone. So you didn't even have to wait in long queues. It took way less time. Even if you had to stand in a queue, standing in a queue for 15 minutes is way better than walking in the hot, dry sun for 3 hours, right? So even a queue didn't matter. Perfect solution, very obvious solution to an obvious problem. Everyone was very happy, the designers who designed it, and they went back because they were not from this community and they went back feeling good. Here is what happened, and it's a true story. A couple of months back, the designers came back to this village to find out how well was their solution performing, right? They wanted to come and see, how well were they able to solve the problem. And here is what they found. None of the women were using the tube well. They were all still walking all the way to the river and carrying water in buckets, right? The tube wells were just lying there outside the houses unused, right? So the women actually rejected the solution. The community rejected the solution. In terms of this workshop, there was no product market fit, right? Isn't that what you guys are trying to solve for? If you think about it, the product was rejected by the users it was designed for, even when it seemed like an obvious solution to an obvious problem. I want to ask a question to all of you here. What did we miss? What happened? Is there a clue that tells us don't make a tube well? It's going to fail. What did we miss? What went wrong? Why did the solution not work?
Actually, I remember the answer from your previous session.
Bye-bye. I'm glad your memory has come back, but don't spoil it for everyone else.
So it was a group activity. They were like stepping out.
Okay, it was
Maybe
group activity.
awareness is not there, maybe.
Awareness about, Anshu?
Like maybe they are enjoying this chit chatting or something kind of a thing.
So you're saying that they're enjoying that and there's no awareness that they're actually facing a problem.
Yes, maybe.
Okay. Anyone
Can
else?
we get to the technical part? Like, I mean, there are different levels of groundwater in different localities. So probably there is water available 20 kilometers away that is not available here for now. So
Yeah.
population distribution might be a problem. जहाँ पे ज़्यादा density of water level went really down and फिर
Okay.
उनको वापस दूर जाना पड़ रहा है.
Okay. So Acha, by the way, just a quick question here. Everyone here understands Hindi? Or would you want me to not speak in Hindi or ask others to not speak in Hindi? Everyone here understands Hindi? Speaks Hindi? Everyone? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so Divya, fair enough. That could be a reason कि जब उन्होंने install किया था, groundwater levels were high, but a couple of months later, the groundwater level went down because the population density was high, and therefore the water stopped being as easily accessible. So the solution was rejected. But that's not what happened, because when the designers came back, पानी था, everything was working well with the tube well, but for some reason people didn't use it. What did we miss? Any other guesses? क्या हुआ? What the hell?
Quality of water. Probably किसी दूसरी जगह पे there are different types of rocks, तो different type का taste होता है, mineral होता है, quality of water.
Okay, quality of water. Maybe they love the taste of the water in the river and not what was coming out of the tube well. Okay, fair. Any last guess?
Probably it was their main uh, way of socializing or stepping out.
Okay, maybe it was the main way of socializing or stepping out. It could also be superstition, by the way. A lot of communities believe that a river is holy and they would continue having water from the river and not from a man-made solution. It can also be superstition sometimes. But let me give you the answer, okay? And some of you were actually pretty close. Here is what was really happening. We know that there are only women in this picture, which is actually the clue, by the way, and that there are no men in this picture, right? The reason that the tube well failed is because of the men, right? It's because of what is not in the picture. Okay, it's because of what it is because of what is very obvious, but what you don't see. Here is what was really happening. Okay. This is a group activity that is done by women. We already know that. In rural villages in India, this activity is also done by women, right? We know that as well. Unfortunately, just like rural villages in India, the societal structure of this community was very patriarchal, which means it was very male dominated, unfortunately, okay? Which means that the women in this village did not have a social life. They were not allowed to step out of their homes. If they were married, they were not allowed to go and hang out with their friends. They were not allowed to socialize, unfortunately, which is a problem that happens in a lot of places in India as well. So the women had no social life because of the men, because of the patriarchy, unfortunately. The only time in the entire day when they were free and when they could actually socialize and they could leave the men behind and they could actually hang out with their friends and get that sense of freedom and independence was during this particular journey. So the journey that was like a couple of hours long and seemed so difficult for us was the best part of their entire day. This is what they looked forward to. This is what they always, were planning. This was it. This was the most important part of their entire day. By making it easier to get water, the designers snatched away their freedom, right? And they hated that. They hated a solution that snatched away their freedom, because this, which seemed like a problem to us, was the best part of their day. Absolutely the best part, right? So the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you will try everything possible. You will try sales, marketing, new features, new strategies to make sure that you have a product market fit without realizing that your understanding of the problem itself is incorrect. And even for obvious problems like this is obvious, right? It seems super obvious, but it's not. Even with the most obvious problems out there, I guarantee you this, okay? I did it as a mistake with my first company when I was in college. I guarantee you this. There is something about your problem that you don't know right now sitting here in this workshop, which has the potential to sink your startup. It is your job as a founder to find out what that aspect of the problem is, figure it out, and find it before it finds you. I guarantee it, there is something about your problem you don't understand right now. Guaranteed. Write it down, stick it on a wall. But it is also possible to find it, no matter how obvious it seems. Right? So there you go. The designers thought it was a problem of access to water, and they didn't realize that there is a whole socio-cultural component to this problem, which can completely destroy their solution, even if it seems obvious. And they would have never found out if they didn't ask. So the point I'm trying to make is, as a founder, it's very important for you to shut up and listen. हम कितना बात करते हैं, right? You're constantly doing pitches. You know, all of you guys just won the Ciena Spaces programs, right? Because of your pitches, right? बात कर लिया तुम लोगों ने, हो गया अभी बात करना. Abhi, it is now time for you to shut up and listen. Talk to your customers, talk to your users. Find out if you know everything about the problem or not, because I guarantee it, no amount of sales and strategy and, you know, like just business models is going to be able to save your product and your startup if you don't understand the problem properly. Right? By the way, it's a happy ending story. There is a solution to the problem that we were just seeing, which is this right here. Any guesses? What could be a solution to this problem now that you know the whole picture? What could be a solution to this? It's not a tube well, obviously, but it still is a problem, right? Pani
I
lana more
remember that
difficult.
question.
Yes, Bhavai, go ahead. Live your moment.
Okay, so they create drums of water, that like plastic drums which they can put water into, and they design it in the form of a roller so that they don't have to put it on their heads.
Yeah. This is the power of spoilers, Bhavai.
Transportation.
If this was a subreddit, you'd be banned right now, but it's not. But congratulations. There you go. That's the solution, right? There you go. That is all you had to design. You solve the problem of how the water is carried without taking the journey away. So the solution to the problem was drum rollers and shoes. If you think about it, it costs way, way less. It's like the fraction of a cost involved in setting up a tube well, right? It's super cost effective. At the same time, you don't have to now carry water in buckets on your head. So no more shoulder and back problems. You can carry more water than what you used to, 5 times more water. You can roll it on the ground. The journey is easy. You can still hang out with your friends. Everybody now wants and needs the solution. So you have a product market fit, and it's super cost effective, and it uses what they, you know, are already pretty much familiar with. And that's why it's a perfect solution. The name of this case study is Hippo Rollers, if you want to go and check it out. But it's just something I always talk about to help you understand the fact that if your understanding of the problem is wrong, you will end up making an extremely expensive, complicated solution that nobody even wants. And it will be very obvious why not, just that you will not be able to see it. Go back to understanding if the problem is right, and then you're able to create an effective solution such as this. Got it? Everyone? Any questions? Making sense? Yeah. If you guys understand that, then it's time for me to ask you one more question. A shorter case study this time, but one more question. So you know that it's important to solve the right problem, right? But what if you're building the wrong solution? Let's say that you understand the problem correctly and the problem is correct. Nothing you're missing out on. तुमने सब homework कर लिया अपना. You can still end up building the wrong solution. Let me give you an example. So this picture that you see here is an actual project that was called play pumps. Okay, so basically it's a merry-go-round that you see, and उसके पीछे एक connected water tank है जो पीछे दिख रहा है अपने को, ठीक है? This particular solution was designed for communities that did not have access to water, right? As we saw. But at the same time, while doing research, अभी socio-cultural factors का भी research करने लगे, right? Designers उनको समझा कि नहीं, पूरा problem देखना पड़ेगा हमको, नहीं तो कुछ miss हो सकता है, and फिर हम गलत solution बना देंगे. तो उन्होंने किया socio-cultural research, and they found out for some reason communities that don't have access to water also don't have playgrounds for children. उनको statistically दिख गया, जो community के पास access to water नहीं है, for some reason वो सारे कम्युनिटी के पास प्लेग्राउंड्स भी नहीं है चिल्ड्रन के लिए. तो उन्होंने क्या जीनियस आइडिया सोचा. बाय द वे, इट वाज अ जीनियस आइडिया कि एक मेरी गो राउंड बनाते हैं. व्हेन चिल्ड्रन प्ले ऑन दैट मेरी गो राउंड, जब बच्चे लोग खेलेंगे, द रोटेशनल मोशन ऑफ द मेरी गो राउंड इज गोइंग टू पंप वाटर इनटू अ वाटर टैंक, एंड देन फिर वो वाटर टैंक से एक छोटा कम्युनिटी को टैप वाटर इजीली मिल जाएगा, राइट? नो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नीडेड, बच्चे लोग को खेलने का जगह मिल गया. Kids can now play on this. It goes around and it pumps water to a water tank, and then you get the water to a small community in their taps. Amazing solution if you think about it, right? It was celebrated, it was covered by media everywhere. It got amazing investment. World leaders, presidents of countries started talking about this solution. Celebrities started endorsing this solution. Sabko laga ki amazing solution hai social innovation, and it really was a genius solution to think about. लेकिन अभी 2023 में this solution is studied, okay, in universities as an example of what you are not supposed to do when you're designing solutions. ये case study बन चुका है of the kind of solutions you are not supposed to design. The reason is कि इसमें एक design flaw है. There is a design flaw in this solution that nobody saw, but the moment it was applied on the field, everybody realized what the design flaw is, and they were like, ये solution नहीं exist करना चाहिए, इसमें एक बहुत major flaw है. This is wrong, ये नहीं होना चाहिए, इसमें एक flaw है, and it's not a good solution from a design perspective. Any guesses what is that design flaw? Yes, Divya.
Hi. Actually, I'm actually very sorry to say, but मैं थोड़ा बाहर था and my phone's battery is about to be dead.
Okay.
So I'm very sorry. I'll have to leave.
No problem, Divya. We will catch you soon. I'm going to be around for the next couple of weeks.
That's really great.
Awesome, Divya. See you.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you. For the rest of you, what is the design flaw? It seems like an amazing solution, but why is it now a case study of a failed solution?
Like there's no water if the children are not playing.
Yeah. So if the children don't play, you don't get water, right? Getting water is dependent on the children playing. Doesn't sound like a great idea. Fair. Could be. Anyone else? What is the design flaw here? Picture में साफ है, by the way. Picture में दिख रहा है वो design flaw.
Like the water tank is too close to this merry-go-round, it will um, like
Okay.
it may be an accident if something happened wrong.
So the water tank is too close to the merry-go-round, and there's a chance for an accident or something going wrong.
Yes.
Okay. Fair. Anyone else? It is very
They
clear
may
in the
not
picture.
necessarily
Yeah, yes.
spin it in the direction that they are supposed to.
It may not necessarily spin in the direction that it is supposed to, and therefore it may not work as planned. Okay, fair. Anyone else? Anyone else? Any other design flaw that you see in the picture? It's there. It's right in front of your eyes.
I don't know. Maybe the tank, the water tank height is way too high. It could have been lower. Like
The water tank height is way too high. It could have been lower so that less effort is needed to pump the water. Okay. Fair.
Maybe the society views it like may view it like children are doing a form of labor work.
Okay. Abu, I'm sure you felt good while saying that. And I know you were there in the last workshop as well. But let me give you what the answer is, right? The design flaw, which is right in front of your eyes.
I think too much human power or human effort will be
Much human
required.
power is needed. You guys are very close, by the way, to the answer. Abu, thank you. Divanshu, thank you. Here is the answer. The design flaw, which is very clear in the picture, are the children. Think about this for a moment, okay? Think about what is happening. Take a step back. You have a mechanical device which, when children play on it, pumps water, and then a community gets water, right? Community comprising of adults. It's a mechanical device which is operated by children, right? It's a mechanical device which uses the labor of children to solve a problem, which means that this is a solution that incentivizes child labor. That's the flaw, right? If you think about it for, there's a very thin line between play and work. And the fact that this is a solution connected to a problem that everyone is facing, the adults in this community will be incentivized to make the children play on this in order to solve the problem for everyone, which means that this is a solution that incentivizes child labor. It's literally a solution that exploits child labor in order to solve a problem for a community. That is the problem. That is the issue that nobody saw. And that's the reason why it is studied now as something that should not exist in the field. And the reason I'm sharing this is when you are too close to your solution, when you're too close to your product, it's sometimes very hard for you to see very objectively what really is wrong with it. Right. And sometimes you may end up creating a solution that creates a much bigger problem than the one you're trying to solve. So understanding the right problem and understanding the right solution, sorry, designing the right solution is what you want to do. And the way to avoid all of these errors and judgments is to actually empathize, like to start using empathy as a design tool, which means putting yourselves into the shoes of the people you're designing it for. So you design solutions with your users and not for your users. And you also try to define the problem not for your users. You try to define the problem with your users. You include them in both parts of your research. You include them as a part of your research when you're understanding the problem, and you also include them as a part of your research when you're trying to design the solution. Design it with them. Don't design it for them. Make sense? Yeah. By the way, quick time check. We are going to end this entire session in about 25 minutes or so. But the crux of what I'm trying to say here is that when it comes to your product market fit, we're actually talking about making sure that you understand the problem and that you understand the solution that you're building and the two match with each other so that you are able to ensure that whatever is the solution that you're building is something that your users need and want. Right? So the demand side or the customer strategy is basically identifying who you're solving it for, understanding the problem, understanding the needs, understanding what your customers want. And then the supply side, which is your product strategy, is basically understanding what you're building, your value propositions, building something called an MVP. And I will get into technicalities of this as we go along. But the point for you is to constantly test and get feedback, from your customers, from your users, so that you're able to achieve that product market fit. That's the whole point. That's the reason I've been spending so much time to make sure that you understand this. Yeah. Understanding the problem and the solution space is what you need. Now, having said that, as I was talking about in the beginning of today's session is that, I'm going to help you guys achieve a product market fit. But what does that mean? There are two things you need to understand. One is a product validation and the other is a business validation. Does anybody here know what the difference is between the two, or can you guess what the difference is between product validation and business validation? Any guesses? What is the difference between a product validation and business validation?
Product validation might mean that whether the product is actually suited to solve the problem, and business validation might look at financial feasibility of the product.
Sure. You are right, Bhavai. So basically, a product is validated when your users use तुमने जो बनाया है for the intended purpose and it solves the intended problem, right? So if you end up making a product, you know what the problem is. If the users use it in the intended way, गलत तरीके से भी use कर सकता है. For example, if you make a pair of scissors, right, and someone murders another person with it, that's not your fault as a designer, to be fair, right? Because it was not used for the intended purpose. But if your product is used for the intended purpose and you make it easier for people to use it for the intended purpose and it solves the desired problem, then you get product validation. Okay? Business validation कब मिलता है? When people actually pay you for that product or service. It's very different, by the way. People may be willing to use your product and it may actually solve the intended problem in the intended way. लेकिन फिर भी people may not be willing to pay you for it. Right? And it could be multiple reasons. It could be because your pricing is too high. It could be because they don't feel like this is a product worth paying for. It could be multiple reasons. But you have to understand that there are two very different things. Product validation and business validation are very, very different things. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to do both of those. You have to validate your product and you also have to validate your business. They're two different things and they are done in two very different ways. In this workshop, in this program, I'm going to focus a lot on product validation. And of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about business validation as well to you guys in the mentorship sessions. But I'm going to focus very heavily on product validation because this is typically where things go wrong. And then you try to figure out why are people not paying for the product, but you don't realize it's because you never validated your product in the first place and you jump directly to business validation. Got it? And a lot of people also make the opposite mistake, which is because you have a first couple of users or who have used or tested your product, you tend to feel that they will also pay for it. And then when you launch it in the market, you realize that you're not getting any paid customers. And then you are not able to figure out why. It's because business validation is a whole different process. Got it? Any questions? We good? All right. If you understand that, of course, you have to, in order to do product or business validation, you have to be where your customers are. You cannot do this sitting in your office because your customers तुम्हारे घर पे तो हैं नहीं, right? They're not in your classroom unless you're making something for students. But your customers are generally not in your office. तुमको product या business validation करने के लिए, you have to go where your customers are. You can't sit at home and try to validate this. It'll never work. But before going so far, let me ask you a very basic question, okay? For the product that you're building, you have to consider the fact that your user and your customer may be two very different people. What that means is the person using your product and the person paying for your product may not be the same person. Okay? Here's a quick question. Can you guys think of products that actually exist out there in the market where the user and the customer are two different people? Can you think of possible products or businesses where the people who use the product and the people who pay for that product are two very different user groups?
The baby product market and the pet food product market are the example of this.
Perfect. There you go. Absolutely. The baby products market and the pet food market, right? Baby products, your
Also,
users are babies.
elderly
Paid by
care
parents,
products.
yes. What is it, Bhavya?
Elderly care products.
Elderly care products as well, right? So baby care, elderly care, pet care, they are all examples where the user is, for example, in baby care is the babies using the product, but they're paid for by the parents, not by the babies, which means that strategically speaking, you need to understand you have two different stakeholder groups for your product and you need to figure out services, strategies, solutions for both of them, which is why I told you your product is not the solution. Your product is a part of the solution. Imagine if you were solving the problem of, let's say, a lot of babies having sensitive skin and therefore not being able to use other baby care products out there. And you design a product using, let's say, herbal ingredients, which is extremely skin friendly for babies, right? Great. You got a product, but it's not a solution because if you don't figure out who are the parents who are going to buy for this, why would the parents buy for your product? How are you going to market and how are you going to reach them? How are you going to acquire all of those new customers? You will never have a solution. You'll just have a product which can't be turned into a solution. Your product is not your solution. It's a part of the solution. And these are questions that matter, right? Who is your user and who is your customer? Okay, now we've discussed that. Here is another question for you. I want your personal opinion, okay? There is no right answer to this. According to you, your personal opinion, what is a well-designed product? According to you, what is a well-designed product? I just want to hear your individual thoughts.
Like a well-designed product is a thing that satisfy the needs of the consumer and is also made at a minimal cost so that it will be profitable for the businessman.
Okay. So according to Anshu, a well-designed product is something that's made at minimal cost for the customers and therefore is also profitable to the entrepreneur. Okay, fair enough. Anyone else? Dhanashri, feel free to contribute because I know you've not encountered this question before. What is a well-designed product according to you guys? Your personal opinion.
Something that the customer is willing to pay for.
Something that the customer is willing to pay for. Okay, fair. Bhavay, do you pay for YouTube? It's a very interesting question, Bhavay.
Indirectly, yes.
Indirectly, yes. How do you pay for YouTube?
By watching their ads.
By watching the ads, and you're good and you're okay with it, right?
I think a well-designed product will be something which the user can't, like if he starts using it, he can't leave it.
A well-designed product is something which if a user starts using, they can't let go.
Yes.
That sounds like an addictive product, but fair enough, Divyanshu, that could be your definition of a well-designed product, which is okay. I just want personal opinions. No right answers here. Fair, okay.
A product which makes the user's life easier and which also be feasible for the business owner.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Abu?
Yeah, a product that makes the user's life more easier and which is also feasible for the business to produce.
So very close to, I think, Anshu's answer, which is makes the user's life easier and is also feasible for the business itself, right? Okay, fair. What about Ayush, Dhanashri, sort of, you guys have your own opinions of a well-designed product?
I also think similar answer that the product has to be viable and it has to make money to the company also. That is
Has to make money.
If it is
Okay.
a for-profit product, obviously.
If it's a for-profit product, it's a very loaded question, huh, by the way. What is for-profit and what is not profit? Beyond the scope of this workshop, but we'll have a discussion some other day. But fair. Okay. Anyone else?
I have encountered this question before with you itself, but if I wouldn't have, it would have been like a product that gives a delightful experience to the user,
A
which is
delightful.
similar. Yeah,
Okay.
because that's what YouTube and Spotify does for me. It's
Okay.
something.
So a product that provides a delightful experience to the users. Okay. Fair. I see what you did there, Dhanashri. Good stuff. All right. Let me ask you a follow-up questions, right? Because most of your answers are going to be close, and that's all good. All of you are correct, by the way. They're all, in a way, definitions of a well-designed product. I want you to, okay, before that, do you guys agree that using a well-designed product always has a positive emotion attached with it? You feel nice using a well-designed product, right? Like good UI, good experience, it solves the problem. You feel nice, everyone? Positive emotion associated with well-designed products, everyone agrees? Okay, fair. Here's a challenge for all of you. I want you to think of a well-designed product which has a negative emotion associated with it when you're using it, which means that while using that product, you hate it. You hate your life, right? And you absolutely don't like the experience at all. But it is an extremely well-designed product.
An injection.
An injection, a syringe, right? Think about it. Nobody likes a syringe. Right? When you're taking a vaccine, everyone hates it. No, like you've got to be crazy if you come and tell me that you love like getting the feeling of getting a jab. It's horrible. Nobody likes it. But is a syringe well designed? Hell yes, it's a well designed product, right? It's life saving, in fact. In fact, most medical devices are all products that fall under this category where while you're using it, it doesn't make you feel good. But after you have done using it is when the benefits kick in. But it's an extremely well-designed product. A non-medical product in this category would actually be gym equipment, right? When you're lifting weight in a gym, when you're using dumbbells, it's horrible while you're doing it. It's supposed to be painful, right? It's supposed to put you under a lot of pressure by design. After you're done using it is when the benefits kick in, not while you're doing it. While you're using a gym equipment, your life is hell at that point, especially if you have a trainer, right? Anybody here who goes to a gym every day experiences this every single day, but the rest of the day is very good, right? When the benefits kick in. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's actually a it's a misunderstanding that every well-designed product has a positive emotion or a delight associated with it, especially if you're working in the healthcare domain. I have worked in the healthcare domain a lot. Dhanashri here, in fact, has worked in the healthcare domain a lot as well. It's not a well-designed, your well-designed product meaning may be very different. Now, the question is, what do you do in that case? If all your users hate taking a vaccine, and if you're in charge of designing a vaccination solution, then what are you going to do? All your users hate your product. Does that mean you'll give up as a designer? No. This is the reason why I started this workshop by telling you that your products are not solutions, they are a part of the solution. Even if the experience of using the product itself, which by design is a little uncomfortable, like taking a vaccine, if you think about it from a solution designer's perspective, you can now design a vaccination program that goes beyond the syringe, right? You can make it easier for for all the patients to book an appointment. You can make it easier for them to have a place to sit, to make sure that they're well hydrated, to make sure that, it's easy for them to find the vaccination centers. You can still design a customer or a user experience, which is amazing, even if the product itself at the center has limitations. And that's the power of thinking like a solution designer instead of a product designer. Does that make sense? Everyone? You got it? Yeah. Okay. Now, since we're at the end almost of today's session, I just want to end with a question that I want to ask all of you guys, right? So far, if you know what problem you're solving and make sure you're solving the right problem, what solution you're building, make sure you're building the right solution, to know the difference between product and business validation. If you know who your user is, if you know who your customer is, you have all of that things in place. You are now in a pretty good position to start thinking about something that I like to call an atomic unit of your startup, right? Just something, it's a question that you guys should start considering or should start thinking about. And you're not going to get the answer in one day, but just something to think at the back of your heads. Now, here is what I mean by startup unit, right? And it's literally the first homework for all of you until I meet you in the mentorship session. So here is what I mean by a startup's atomic unit. Let's say that you know what problem you're solving, right? The question to ask is, how do you actually solve the problem for your customers? And then what is the single most important aspect of that solution that helps you achieve this, right? You know what problem you're solving. Ask yourself, how exactly are you solving that problem? And what aspect of your solution may have a lot of features. What is the single most important aspect that you are focusing on as a part of your solution that is helping you achieve this? Let's take an example, right? Let's say that a problem that you're solving is that there is lack of hands-on learning opportunities for new age career skills, right? Especially for, let's say, college going students. And because of this, there is a shortage of talent in the creative industry. So what this possibly could mean is that a lot of formal education focuses on like STEM, and it focuses on, these very set career paths. And you don't get a lot of hands-on learning opportunities for these alternate career options that are available, especially in the creative industry. For example, where in India would you go if you want to take up a career as a professional YouTuber? There is no course for this, right? Like there's no formal education course for this. But at the same time, the creative industry needs content creators in order to thrive. So let's say that's the problem you're addressing. Now, let's say for the sake of this session that the way you decide to solve it is by creating an on-demand platform where you can basically self-learn premium courses, which are paid courses, obviously. And all of these courses are curated for new age skills, right? So these are like, let's say, courses on how to be a YouTuber, courses on, let's say, how to be a VR developer, courses on how to, let's say, create NFCs, things like that. So these are all new age skills, right? And you create a platform, an online learning platform that has all of these different courses in it. There are actually two platforms that exist, which is very close to this problem here. One of those is Masterclass. I'm sure most of you have heard of it, right? Masterclass is a platform that has it has courses like learn film direction from Ron Howard, right? Who's an Oscar winning director, or like learn acting from Natalie Portman, right? Who's again an Oscar winning actor. So it has courses taught by these celebrities. And then you have Udemy, which also has courses, and a lot of the Udemy, in fact, Udemy has a course on how to be a content creator. It's very focused on new age skills. Both of these platforms are edtech platforms. Both of these platforms have courses, and both of these platforms, in a way, solves this problem that we are addressing, right? But the atomic unit of Masterclass and Udemy is very different from each other. What Masterclass focuses on to solve this problem is very different from Udemy, even though they are both platforms with online courses in them. I want to ask this question to you guys. Any guesses how and why Masterclass is different from Udemy? Why are they so different? They both have online courses, but why are they very different from each other?
The teachers in masterclass are like recognized celebrities, and on Udemy, normal instructors could also teach.
Okay, Masterclass has celebrities and Udemy has normal instructors. All right. Anyone else? Okay, Abu, you're right. The atomic unit for Masterclass and Udemy is very different because Masterclass focuses on celebrity instructors and Udemy focuses on career focused courses, right? Which is why Masterclass, when it comes to their strategy, acquisition, when it comes to their solution, when it comes to their UI, when it comes to their content, everything is focused around the instructors and how they are all celebrities. But Udemy, because it is so focused on like career ready courses, it is all around how this course is going to help you become a content creator, how this course is going to help you become a director, how this course is going to help you become a producer. It's all focused on the career aspect of it, and therefore their main primary atomic unit is the course itself, right? They are both at tech platforms, but their atomic units are very different from each other. And there's nothing wrong with it, by the way, right? They're both successful. They both have their own strategies, but they have a very different way of operating. Their priorities are extremely clear. And that is the reason why they're able to make decisions very easily. For example, if Masterclass had to decide between spending their budget on hiring instructors versus spending their budget on making 10 different courses, they can very easily make that decision and choose instructor because they know that their atomic unit is instructors. It's not just the course, it's the instructor itself, right? Whereas Udemy, if it has to choose between like being the first one to launch a course on NFC versus getting a celebrity to come and take a course on NFC, they're going to choose on being the first ones to launch a course on NFC because for them instructor is not important. It's more important how career relevant the courses are, and therefore the focus is on course itself. If you understand the concept of atomic unit, you will be able to start looking at all of the products that you love around you, all of them, and you'll very soon start realizing that their focus is very different. They're doing the same thing, but they're doing it in different ways. Here are a couple of other examples as well. Let's take Amazon and Swiggy, right? All of you know Amazon e-commerce marketplace. All of you know Swiggy as well. Both Amazon and Swiggy are e-commerce platforms, correct? Like not e-commerce in a way, like they are both platforms where you can place an order and you get something delivered, right? So in a way, they are an e-commerce platform. They're a marketplace. Swiggy is a marketplace for restaurants, and Amazon is a marketplace for sellers selling normal products, right? But they're both marketplaces. If you realize Amazon and Swiggy, their marketplaces operate in very different ways. Do you guys know what that difference is? Like, what is the difference between the Amazon marketplace and the Swiggy marketplace in terms of how they operate?
Amazon delivers like all around the world, but Swiggy delivers in the nearby areas.
Sure. Let's narrow it down a little bit, right? Let's talk about Amazon in India and Swiggy in India. They're both marketplaces. Yeah, they sell different products. I'm not getting into that. But just in terms of how the marketplace itself is structured, do you notice a difference? They both have sellers. both of them have products that these sellers are selling. In one case, it is food. In the other case, it is consumer products. In both the places, you can go in, you can see a list of every product on the platform. You have filters, you have search, you can place an order, and then the order is delivered to your home, right? One of them takes a little bit longer time to deliver. The other one takes like a few minutes to deliver, but they both have the same operating principles of a marketplace, but they're very different in their approach. Any guesses or any insights on what that is? There's something very different between just their marketplace model. It's very obvious if I tell you the answer, but you don't realize it, but it happens all the time. Okay, let me give you the answer. Sorry, yeah.
The guess that I was having was that there's this add to cart option in Amazon, whereas in Swiggy you are in one shop and buying from that shop and eventually leaving the platform. But
very close to the answer, Dhanashree. And the answer is right here. For Amazon, the atomic unit is products, and for Swiggy, it is sellers. Think about this. If you go to Amazon and you search for a product, right? It sometimes doesn't even show you who the seller is. It doesn't matter. It just focuses on getting you access to the products as quickly as possible. And its whole atomic unit is centered around. But does that mean that Amazon does not care about its sellers? No, that is not the meaning of atomic unit. Amazon, in fact, has one of the best seller onboarding experiences out of all the e-commerce platforms on the planet, by the way. They have an amazing seller relationships experience team, right? They do focus on sellers. But just from a platform perspective, from an atomic unit perspective, Amazon is designed around products, not around sellers. You don't go to Amazon and see a list of sellers, right? You just go to Amazon and see a list of products. But when it comes to Swiggy, Swiggy is very seller centric, right? Because if you go to Swiggy, you're going to see a list of sellers, which in this case is cloud kitchens and restaurants. And you need to select a seller and then you buy. On Amazon, for example, if you wanted to buy, let's say, if you wanted to buy the new iPhone, right? Or if you wanted to buy, like, let's say, OnePlus, Amazon doesn't care about who you're buying it from. In most cases, you will not even see that algorithm working. It just wants to make sure that you get your OnePlus, at the best price, at the most convenience possible for you. But when it comes to Swiggy, if you want to order a paneer tikka pizza, you just can't order it from anywhere. It will actually ask you to select the seller. It wants to make sure that you buy from the seller itself, and it has mechanisms in its UI which is very seller centric. So even though they are both marketplaces, their whole strategies are very, very different. But the point I'm trying to make here is the atomic unit is a very important aspect for you to identify. It's very difficult to choose your atomic unit, by the way, because there is so much that your startup does. There's so much that your product does. But choosing your atomic unit is the first step to figuring out how can you add more value to your customers by focusing on your atomic unit. All of your strategic decisions, all of your, business, decisions, your features, your prioritizations, all of them are focused on adding more value to your atomic unit. That's how you prioritize. That's how you achieve better decision making. So I'm just going to leave it at that, guys.